Hey everybody, it's Eddie from Tokyo. This is your cryptocurrency update from Japan. This is about XRP and an article that Ashish Birla wrote on June 8th. And I want to just chime in on some of the conversation that has taken place after he wrote this. I'm going to just take you really quick, though, back to Q1 2020 when XRP market reports was released on the 30th of April. And the XRP holders were so happy to see that the on-demand liquidity volume had increased by more than 294%. However, in the last 4 days, the on-demand liquidity volume in the Mexican corridor with Bitso has fallen off from an all-time high of 37 million in a 24-hour period on June 1st to 23 million, then 20 million, then 19 million, and now June 10th down to 15 million. So there's no doubt that Ashish Birla put out his article at the same time that we see this falling off because he knows everybody is watching the volume. And the read is called Staying the Course in Remittances and SME Payments, the small to medium size enterprises. All right, so the two sentences that turned this 3-minute read into a 5 or 6 or 7 or 10-minute read was this right here, because everybody, I think, had to keep rereading this paragraph. So it goes like this. In particular, we, being Ripple, are reducing emphasis on large treasury payments, which are traditionally used to fund businesses and services in the absence of real-time transfers to support individual low-value transactions, addressing the growing need in remittances and SME payments. So this may reduce overall ODL transaction volumes. And I think everyone was like, what was that? What did you just say? So reducing the emphasis on large treasury payments. We don't know, we really don't know which customer was putting through payments that were large treasury payments. No matter what you say, we don't have the full customer list. And those large values, well, let me just give you an idea of what's considered a large value transaction. The chaps in the UK or the Fedwire in the US, they have higher average values, roughly 200,000 US dollars per transaction. You compare that to just $3,500 for an automated clearinghouse transaction, like an ACH credit transaction. And then you've got even a smaller segment of payments, like $60 for a debit card transaction. So there are different segments in the payment sector. All right, here is a list that actually gives you the average transactions for various providers. You can see Currency Fair average 5,500, TransferWise 2,300, Remitly 500, TransferGo 400, Western Union 300, World Remit 200, and then you have the banks, which JP Morgan at 15,000, B of A 10,000, and Citi 7,000. So yeah, these would not be considered those high value, but more of the low value transactions. And when we talk about really what Ashish is looking at, I asked him for a little bit of clarification. I actually asked him to shed some light on it because I just quite wasn't 100% sure what he was trying to say. So again, then he reiterated on a reply on Twitter that the focus is on individual low value transactions. And it would be where 1, the ODL is a solution, and 2, they're going to focus on where the fastest growing payment segment is. So I said, well, I imagine Money Match is a perfect example of this, right? Because they are an individual and they're a payment company that is focusing on the SMEs, the small to medium-sized enterprises. And he went on to just get a little bit more information here, and he says that most of our clients are a good match for low-value payments, and most will transition to these use cases in the medium term. I believe this will be far stickier in terms of a product market fit. So far stickier. David chimed in on that stickiness, that sticky, icky business. And he tells us that for handling the smaller payments, it has advantages too. They're just a little more subtle. It's big one that it is stickier. So I see that you want to be able to drive those benefits all the way down to the customer. And then it becomes much more difficult to be replaced if you are just a tiny cog in a big machine. So there's a reason why you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket and depend on just one big customer. It's much riskier. Smaller payment providers push those benefits down to the customer. You have a bond that occurs that's much more difficult to break. And if you provide that service for just one big entity, you can be replaced so quick. And I get that. And I'd rather be, I'd rather see this company have 100 small customers than one big one. This is why a lot of people refuse to sell to Costco. I'm not sure if you know that, but if you do successfully get a Costco account and you place your goods on their shelf, they have the reputation for just telling you the on a whim that you're no longer in their supply chain, that you are no longer needed, that you're no longer able to have any shelf space, and please come pick up your goods. And a lot of the perishables that are sold out there to places like Whole Foods, if you get lucky enough to get some shelf placement for bread, for example, and your bread has an expiration date, it's a perishable, you are responsible for going and picking up the bread that doesn't sell, and it's deducted from the invoice that they pay out. So it's not always the perfect business solution to get the biggest customer out there. So I really, really do get it. So back to what payment segment is the fastest growing. Here we can see this is a McKinsey report. This is interesting. The C2C, which is for the cross-border flows and revenues, 2018, basically the growth was flat. They had a 0.5 trillion in those flows, but flat growth. C2B, customer to business, 1.5 trillion. The volume growth is a little bit better at 9%. And then you go to the business to consumer, it gets it a little bit better. There's a 1.2 trillion in flows. But what's interesting is what used to be bank dominated for that space. There are a lot of new entrants, and they are having a lot of fun experiencing this 50+% growth. But when you come down to the B2B, this has 133 trillion in flows, and in the SMEs are growing 2 to 3 times the rate of large corporates, especially in emerging markets. So, SME space then clearly is where you want to be. And David makes an additional point. He said in a tweet today that he encourages people to give some thought to the relative advantages and disadvantages of more dollar value versus more individual payments. So do you want to have just big volume going through with one big customer, or do you want to have a lot of customers pushing through smaller amounts? So in light of where the growth is with these SMEs, I want to go for the basket of 100 quail eggs instead of the one big ostrich egg. And too many assumptions, I think, were also being made on the reduction of volume was MoneyGram. I don't think it was. Now, of course, we probably won't know. And if we do, then it is going to be, I think, amazing if we find that out. But I don't think it was. I think it was an unnamed entity that was using the Mexican corridor at the same time. you know, what a better time than to push through a couple of different customers, because all through that blurriness and all of the payments pushing through, you can't distinguish who it is that's doing what. And a couple of hours ago, Ashish Burla tells us that MoneyGram continues to be an active ODL customer. And it's important for Ripple to see growth in terms of the number of transactions versus notional volume increases. And the notional word here is, it's a word that's used for very often in foreign exchange. It's also known as the notional principal or the notional value, and it is the amount of currency to be sold and bought. So I think that when we look at the number of transactions, that is probably what we should be focusing on. And maybe that is, yeah, so maybe we're going to have some of the people that are tracking these corridors use some different metrics to give us an indication of growth. That would be really, really nice. And we believe, according to Ashish, says that where payment growth is in the future, think MasterCard and Visa, both companies are very successful and focus on low value payments. Well, I hope Sam IM and SPQR, they keep asking their tough questions, because we need to have people like them putting those hard questions out there so that we really understand our investment. And I don't want them to stop, because it's an important part of getting down to what is really happening. These private companies don't have to really be that transparent, although I know Ripple is very transparent, but still, I bring up one more point, and that is, should Ripple IPO, you should know that in the S1 form that is registered with the SEC, that they don't have to necessarily disclose their entire details on customer list. It can be protected as a trade secret, especially if it has been created where it contains a non-public information list. Yeah, a real list that's accessible only to a few on a need-to-know basis, which includes contact information, sales history, customer needs, pricing, historical data. It's blurry and it's not clear-cut, but it does hold up as being a trade secret if certain criteria is met. And so I am not one to think that just because they file their S1, which, by the way, this is the link to that form, and you can see what is essential and required of a company when they fill out that S1. And you can look at many other S1 examples out there, and you'll see that you don't get everything that the company is doing in terms of their trade secrets. So there you have it. Okay, everybody. Yeah, we keep watching, and we keep paying attention to all of the tough questions that are out there, and hopefully we do see a Ripple Drop episode on this. And we've got quarterly reports coming soon, both from Ripple and from MoneyGram. And right now, I think we just have to keep paying attention. But I think the focus on the SMEs is absolutely brilliant. And I think that I would rather pay attention to a basket of customers instead of just trying to push big volume on a high value transaction customer that could just wake up one morning and say, you're replaceable and we don't need your services anymore. Yep, I want to drive that benefit down to the customer. And I'm not just towing the company line here. I'm really giving this a lot of thought. I didn't do a video yesterday because I was brewing on all of my thoughts, and this is really how I feel. All right, let's do a little bit of fluff. So we've got a new norm, and I just don't know where we're all going in this world with eating out, but this is now how you can go out and eat sushi in your own private booth. This is a Kaiten sushi. It has wireless. Yeah, you can get comfortable and kick back and set your space up because it's your private space while the sushi goes by on a conveyor belt. I don't know. This is, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it really is the experience I'm looking for when I go out and eat, but this is becoming the new norm. And there's also Tokyo's favorite ramen. This is called Ichiran Ramen. And they have also created these individual booths. This, I just really, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I like it. Actually, don't like it. Yeah, if I want to eat at home, I can do it in my own personal space. But, well, maybe for the convenience and still keep some of that personal space and privacy. And but I think you lose a lot of the experience of going out and eating. I don't know, maybe everybody's okay with this. But one thing I am okay with is the Ichiran ramen. This is one of the best in Tokyo. I highly recommend try lots of ramen when you come to Tokyo, but this is one of Tokyo's favorites. And then another new norm. Well, I don't know. This is a company that's created AI, artificial intelligence, personal images that are used in stock photography. So these are not real gals. These have been artificially created, and they are downloadable in different size of RGB JPEGs. And here is Heidi, for example. She's estimated to be 27 years old. She's like the girl next door. She's friendly, very popular, and they recommend this model for your eye-catching banners or advertisements. Or maybe Saika is who you're looking for. She's estimated to be 24 years old. She's a new employee with a clean impression. And she gives a sincere atmosphere and recommended as a model for your staff images, such as your customer support. Look at this. And how about Aiju? She's estimated to be 29 years old. She's intelligent, and she's a cool career girl. She has a calm atmosphere, and she's recommended for such things as cram schools and seminar lectures. Or there's Raimu. Raimu is 21 years old. She's an active college student who's ethical. Yeah, oh, she looks ethical. And she can give you this active atmosphere and recommend it as a model for tour guides or travel media. Isn't this just wild? And then you have Kaina, and she's estimated to be 26. She's a planner for a cosmetics company. And then from her atmosphere, she is a girl who is recommended as a kind of an ambassador image for beauty. So there's your image of beauty in Japan for advertising. How interesting is this? This is really interesting. And you can download these images in different sizes. They start at about $200 for the small and go up to just over $300 for the large. And I believe they are royalty free. In other words, you can download the image, and then I think you can use the image in as many times as you want. Yeah, it's a very open kind of licensing agreement. Anyway, wild, just wild. All right, everybody, do take care. Sayonara for now. Bye-bye.